Good morning and welcome to this special briefing for Signpost Programme partners concerning AgNav. AgNav is a new sustainability digital platform being jointly developed by Teagasc, ICBF and Board Bia with the support of the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. My name is Tom O'Dwyer. I'm head of the Signpost Programme. I'd like to start by introducing my Teagasc colleagues who will make the main presentation as part of this morning's webinar. I'm joined on this morning's broadcast by Head of Technology Transfer and Commercialization, Siobhan Jordan. Good morning, Siobhan. And also by Teagasc researcher, Jonathan Hearn. Good morning, Jonathan. Also on the call this morning is my Signpost Programme colleague, Siobhan Kavanagh. And Siobhan is going to handle questions that are submitted during the broadcast. And if you have questions for our presenters, you can add them to the Q&A function on the Zoom application. And Siobhan and I, later on in the broadcast, will put as many of them as possible to our presenters towards the end of the webinar. And finally, just to mention that the broadcast is being recorded and will be made available to Signpost Programme partners in the following days. The Signpost Programme itself was launched by Teagasc in the spring of 2021. In fact, we're just coming up to our second anniversary. The programme was established with 3 pillars. The first was a network of demonstration farms. The second was the National Agricultural Soil Carbon Observatory, and the third was the Signpost Advisory Programme. So far, we have established a network of 125 demonstration farmers right across the country, with many of these having already adopted climate mitigation technologies and shared their experiences with other farmers. The National Agricultural Soil Carbon Observatory research project has started. 30 flux towers have been installed at various sites around the country, with significant data already flowing from these towers. Before handing over to our presenters, I want to say a few words about the Signpost Advisory Programme itself. It was officially launched just before Christmas of last year. It is the Teagasc response to support farmers beyond the signpost farmers to take climate action. We want to support all Irish farmers to identify the opportunities for change and improvement on their farms, changes which can reduce gaseous emissions while also improving overall farm sustainability, including profitability. This is a free service and will be available to all farmers. Further details are available on our website, and if any of our partners wish to find out more about the Signpost Advisory Programme, they can contact myself or Siobhan Kavanagh directly in the first instance. A key focus for this new Signpost Advisory Programme service is to accelerate the adoption of currently known climate mitigation technologies by an increasing number of Irish farmers, while also building the capacity of both farmers and advisors to support the adoption of new technologies, those technologies that are currently under research. To that end, Teagasc has secured approval from the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine to recruit an additional 21 advisors to work with Irish farmers. And these 21 advisors will have now been identified and will be in their new roles very shortly. A gap that has been identified in terms of advisors engaging with farmers around greenhouse gases was a farm-specific measurement of gaseous emissions. In other words, what is the level of gaseous emissions from my particular farm? So there was a need to break down the overall greenhouse gas emissions of the national agricultural sector to the emissions generated by each individual farm, and to do that in a way that required a minimum of effort on the part of the farmer, while allowing the farmer to explore the impact of the adoption of mitigation technologies on their farm's emissions figures. This led to the new collaboration between Teagasc, ICBF and Board Bia with the support of the Department of Agriculture to develop this new tool, decision support tool called AgNav, which the webinar is about this morning. And my final comment then is, while the focus of this morning will be on the AgNav tool itself, the decision support tool, how it works, what its components are, it is my belief that the real value from this tool will come in its use, and specifically its use by advisors and farmers, or maybe by farmers themselves. And that's where the value is going to be gained. And I see AgNav as a key component or enabler of the Signpost Advisory Programme, and a priority for me and the Signpost Programme team is to ensure that maximum use is made of it over the coming years. So I think that this webinar this morning is a fantastic opportunity for our Signpost program partners to find out more about AgNav at this point in time. So with those words of introduction, I'm going to hand over to our presenters this morning, my colleague Siobhan Jordan initially, and then followed by Jonathan Hearn. So over to you then, Siobhan.
Thank you very much, Tom, and delighted to join you all this morning. As Tom noted, it's a double act between myself and researcher Jonathan Hearn, and both of us happen to be in Moore Park this morning, so delighted to be joining this webinar. I'm going to very briefly outline some of the background to the platform, the Sustainability Digital Platform that's now being rebranded as AgNav, and then hand over to Jonathan, who's going to take you through a live demo. That should take just no more than 20 minutes, and we'll have plenty of time then for questions and answers. So please do, encourage you to put your questions, any questions, into the chat box that we can pick those up. I really kind of want lots of engagement and encouragement in terms of the explanations and the utilization. So Jonathan's going to start the slide sharing, and as Tom kindly introduced, AgNav has been developed as very much a national online farmer-centric portal that has been developed in partnership by 3 different agencies. That's Teagasc, Irish Cattle Breeding Federation, ICBF, and Board Bia. And as explained on the second slide, we are utilising the 3 respective agencies' collective knowledge. So underpinning AgNav and the Sustainability Digital Platform has been years of research, peer-reviewed research led by Teagasc. It has been working with Board Bia and drawing on the standards with respect to the quality assurance, and also the wealth of knowledge that ICBF has with respect to software. And the overall aim is really enhancing the data and supporting decision-making support tools for farmers, and providing that guidance with respect to how they can take action to support the climate action. So within one consolidated online platform, as the next slide is outlined, we have got a number of different, I suppose, objectives that emerge from that. So the first is very much, this has been a request from farmers. Farmers have been seeking how best they can, I suppose, undertake and implement mitigating actions on their farm. So AgNav is there to encourage and support farmers to implement climate actions at farm level, but also to lever the best of the support them from, I suppose, robust interagency data, to have one version of the truth, as we say, so that, I suppose, utilizing verified data sets, there can be one version of truth across all Irish farms, that every farm knows their number. And that's been enabled and captured using, I suppose, the peer-reviewed tool models from Teagasc alongside verified data sets. But also the platform will allow and enable the more precise capture and analysis of data, so that there's a more accurate calculation of the impact of particular actions. And that's the decision support tool that Jonathan is going to demonstrate to you. I suppose all of us are very, I suppose, aware of the fact that there is a lot of desire to have greater quantification of progress towards the climate action plan targets, the 25% of agriculture. And so the AgNav will provide a mechanism to verify and support the quantification, the aggregate I suppose, progress that has been made by farmers with respect to that climate action plan target, and also support clear communications on the positive progress that has been achieved by farm level for Ireland against those ambitious targets. So this is very much about giving control to the farmers. And the next slide just outlines, I suppose, why the 3 partner agencies, the public agencies, have decided to come together to collaborate. Well, there was a lot of strong working relationships already in place, strong history of working together on existing models and data. So it was a natural extension of that to, I suppose, look across how we could partner with farmers as the key stakeholders of all of our 3 organisations. And working together, a superior service can be delivered to farmers. and very much supporting them in delivering the change necessary to meet those ambitious climate action targets. But there's also a desire to make it, I suppose, a kind of simplified process for farmers. It's about streamlining the collection of existing data, be it the Board Bia quality assurance data, and utilising that data to actually provide the baseline figures. So rather than farmers having to input data on a number of occasions to different platforms, really this platform aggregates it and supports the farmers to use verified data. So the next slide really just outlines and builds on the partnership of the different areas of expertise that the three organisations are drawing. And very much at the heart of this is a science-led support and planning tools with specific and accurate verifiable data for farmers to deliver on climate action. So all of the three organisations bring unique strengths. Across Teagasc, there's a strength around having the Signpost advisory programme that will support utilising this in the workshops. It's the peer-reviewed low carbon assessment model tools that are at the heart of the decision support and being able to support farmers with different scenarios. ICBF brings its strength with respect to software development and having robust systems in place to process and support data. And Board Bia drawing on its long-standing track record across quality assurance and the data that it gathers across its 35,000 member farmers. So in drawing together these strengths, it is of critical importance that we go back to the kind of one version of the truth. And the next slide, I suppose, provides the reassurance around the fact that this is very much farmer-led. There is, I suppose, very robust procedures in place with respect to the data, and it is the farmer that will give permission with respect to access to the data. And again, this will be very much explained through the demonstration by Jonathan. So the data is already available, as noted in the kind of Board Bia, ICBF and Teagasc databases. It's used collectively to give more powerful scenarios and verifiable numbers for each of the farmers. And there'll be no data sharing out with AgNav lead partners. So again, unless it's requested by the farmers. So that's very much building on the kind of existing, I suppose, permissions that are in place. And there's nothing new in terms of new permissions that the farmers, that the data won't flow to any other partners unless it's through the permission of the farmers. The next slide is where I'll hand over to Jonathan, and this just gives, I suppose, a brief introduction to what the website, the agnav.ie, will look like. It's still very much at the early stages of this, we've had some initial trials, but this gives a degree of the branding, which I suppose is hot off the presses, so you're getting a kind of pre-share of this. But Jonathan's now going to take you through the kind of what lies beneath AgNav in terms of the three elements and also a live demo. Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Fawn, and thanks to everybody who has joined the meeting here today. So yeah, as you can see here, this is, I suppose, an overview of what we're talking about here is the online digital platform, what we've named AgNav. Collaboration between Teagasc, Board Bia and ICBF, as you can see down there. So it's an equal collaboration between the three partners. And what we have within the AgNav platform is we have three components. We have assessment, forecast, and an action planner. Okay. I suppose the overarching objective really is that develop a digital platform that allows farmers to continue to improve productivity, ensure economic viability, while also setting new standards in terms of the environmental sustainability of the farms. So putting actions into play so that we strive to achieve the targets that have been set to us. So the three components then, that's part of the platform. First of all, we have assess. So as I said, it's collaboration between ourselves, Board Bia and ICBF. So through the Board Bia quality assurance survey, farm activity data is collated. So examples of the information that's collected is around your fertilizer, your concentrate, your manure management. So building a picture of that farm. That data then is combined with animal specific information that is within ICBF, so animal performance as well as animal numbers and animal inventory change. So with that then, we are building a picture of a farm. We're able to conduct a life cycle assessment. So through years of research, Teagasc have developed life cycle assessment models that are used to calculate greenhouse gas emissions and ammonia emissions and other environmental indicators of farming systems. So using that data, we can establish the starting point for each individual farm. So their current performance of their farming system. Using that then, we have developed a decision support tool that is a live decision support tool, which is unique in that it is based on the data that the farmer provides rather than using default values. And it basically allows the user to assess the effect of different management practices or different mitigation strategies at different adoption rates and how that may affect their overall greenhouse gas emissions and ammonia emissions. From that then, based on that information that you are provided with through the decision support tool, the farmer, along with their advisor, develops a farm-specific action plan. So, identifying the practices that will make a difference on the farm in terms of their environmental performance. So this is an example of what we're talking about in terms of assess. So as it's all going to be within the one system. So on the AgNav platform, you'll be conducting the assessments similar to what is done within the board Bia. So you'll be, for example, here, the housing days you can see here, you have your manure management, your feeds, silage feeding, fertilizer, energy. Through that then, you go down to the decision support tool, which I'll go into more detail later on. You can see here, one of the things here is the effect of fertilizer use on the farm. And then ACT, which is finally a farm-specific action plan that's being co-developed between the three companies. So I'm just going to move over then to give a demonstration on what we've developed to date. So if you can bear with me.
So as Jonathan is switching screens, I'll just remind our viewers this morning that if you have any questions for Jonathan or Siobhan, you can enter them through the Q&A function on Zoom, and Siobhan, Cavan and I will keep an eye on them and put those questions to Jonathan and Siobhan later on during the broadcast. Okay, we haven't got the functionality this morning to unmute people to allow them to ask questions directly.
So this is what we have to date. So at the moment, the testing website that we're using is sustainablefarm.ie. We're currently in transition to moving that to agnav.ie. So just based on the name. So this is what you'll be met with when you search up the website. You'll be asked first to sign into your account. There's no need to set up a new account because you can use your already existing ICBF login to access this system. So you put in your herd number, you put in your password for ICBF, you press login. At that point, then the user will be prompted with to give their permission to use their data for the purpose of the AgNav platform. So to help them develop an action plan for the farm. So when they log in, they give permission. They're now able to access the platform. They're then faced with this tool here. This is the actual AgNav, I suppose, dashboard that has been developed. Okay, so what you're presented with today, you'll have your herd number, you'd have the year of the assessment. So for this particular herd, we're looking at production year 2021. What we see here is the total farm emissions, so kilos of CO2 equivalent, the greenhouse gas emissions per hectare, so kilos of CO2 equivalent per hectare. We then have our carbon footprint for dairy, and we also have a carbon footprint for beef. So this is new in that beforehand, beef and dairy were independent of each other within, but through the AgNav, we're able to integrate that. So we're able to capture mixed farming systems. So if a farm is a specialized dairy farm, they're only going to be presented with the total emissions per hectare and the dairy carbon footprint. Similarly, if it's a specialized beef system, it'll be total emissions per hectare and the beef carbon footprint. If you're mixed, you're showing the 4 values. Okay. We have greenhouse gas emissions, but we're also presenting the ammonia emissions, which is also of importance, seeing that 99% of ammonia emissions is derived from the agricultural sector. So there's equal pressure on ammonia as there is with greenhouse gases. And similarly, it's total, it's per hectare, and it's per kilo outputs. Okay. With that, then we can see where the emissions are coming from. So you can see here we have fossil fuels, so that's just use of electricity as well as fuel. We have imported feed, so it's concentrate as well as your if you're buying in any forage into the system, manure-related emissions, so managed manure-related emissions. We have fertilizer-related emissions, and then we also have animal-related emissions. Okay, so that just gives you an idea of the breakdown of where the greenhouse gas emissions are being sourced from. What we can then do then is, so we know what our starting points. So what we have up here is this is our benchmark. This is our starting point for 2021. Our carbon footprint is 1.03. That's our emissions per hectare, nearly 11,000 kilos per hectare. We can then test out a number of practices and how they may affect that value. So the first one we're going to look at is nitrogen fertilizer. So I suppose just to go up to begin with, just to provide transparency, I suppose the data that's used, we have this input summary tab as well. So if you want to see what information is used to calculate the information that was collated to calculate these emissions, so it's the information provided by the farmer through the Bia system and will be soon be provided through the AgNav platform, as well as ICBF data. So we'll have the total farm area, we'll have animal inventory, so the type of animals you have in your farm in different categories. We have production data, so how much milk did you produce, the fat protein content, if you have beef, how much live weight did you produce? The fertilizer, how much fertilizer did you spread? What form is it in? So at the moment, the national greenhouse gas inventory and ammonia inventory categorizes fertilizer in 3 categories, which is urea, protected urea, and other nitrogen. So anything else essentially. Your P and your K fertilizers, as well as your lime. Manure management is when do you spread your manure and how do you apply it? So you can see the spread there and the methodology. How much meal are you feeding? So this is how it's asked in Bia. Is it how much concentrate are you feeding to milking cows per day within the given farm? And then you have the total concentrate fed per cow. We have also how much meal are you feeding to young stock? So this, you see here that what the farmer provided is that they're feeding 1.5 kilos of meal indoors and 1 kilo outdoors and there is a specified time period as well for that. And then we've grazing and housing days. So when are the animals turned out? When are they housed? Okay. So using that information, that's the data that's used to calculate the greenhouse gas emissions. This decision support tool then uses that starting point and seeing how we change our practices, how it may influence the number. So if we look at fertilizer, we can see this farm is 100% other nitrogen fertilizer. So that could be straight can, it could be 18 your compound fertilizers. If we want to say, right, this farmer, we're going to incorporate clover into our sward. We're going to reduce our quantity of fertilizer by 20%, so 80% of the starting point. We can press calculate, and we can see the influence of that management change. Second. And of course, it's not working. Okay. Similarly, then we could change this.
One prepared earlier, Jonathan.
Yeah, I might have to log in and log out again if that's okay. If you just bear with me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
So I guess the idea is that what Jonathan is showing there is a scenario analysis, looking at what impact changing one item on the farm has on the farm's greenhouse gas emissions. So in the example Jonathan was showing, it was reducing fertilizer nitrogen. Everything else remains the same, and the AgNav decision support tool recalculates the greenhouse gas emissions. So Jonathan, are you back again?
No, give me a second there now, Tom.
Okay.
Just logging in.
And Tom, this is exactly the kind of scenarios that will be run at the workshops. The Signpost Advisors will be operating, and so I suppose there's a number. It's a great way of the farmers understanding what difference particular actions could make.
Yeah, I think for me that's the beauty of the tool, that a farmer can move the sliders himself or herself and look at the impact of a change in a single action on their farm's emissions. So that's the strength of the tool. Yeah,
back in action. Sorry, guys.
Okay, off you go, Jonathan.
Yeah, so you can see that there now. Yeah. Can you? Yep.
Yep, we can see it.
Yes, Jonathan,
cool,
that's viewing. Yeah.
Yep. So if I just go then, as I was saying, to 80%, we can see this, the starting point is the same. We then go, we press calculate, see what the influence of reducing fertilizer by 20% for that given farm. And what we can see as the total farm emissions go down by approximately 3.6%, and similarly, the carbon footprints are reduced. If we go to ammonia, we can also see a reduction in the ammonia as well. So we're seeing that reduction in 1.5, 2.3 per hectare and whatnot. Okay, so that's the impact of reducing by the fertilizer. If we look at the protected urea then, so we can see that protected urea is one of the, I suppose, promising technologies that we have available to us to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So transitioning from our the predominant, I suppose, ammonium and nitrate-based fertilizers to protected urea, how that may influence the emissions. So if we go to 75% protected urea and we 25% in other nitrogen, we press calculate. How that may influence the emissions is we can see that effect actually reduces emissions by 6.4% of the total farm emissions. I suppose this is important to note. While it's beneficial that the carbon footprint is going down, ideally what we want to be seeing is a combination of both reduction in carbon footprint, so emissions per kilo output, as well as a total emissions. Because it's this total emissions that is what the 25% target is based on, okay? So it's a combination of both. The beauty of this tool as well, it allows you to you can do multiple practices at once. So you can say the 20% reduction in fertilizer as well as the change in fertilizer type and how that may influence your greenhouse gas emissions. Okay. So once again, you can see, so that farm there, by making those changes, that farm can actually reduce emissions by 10% on a total basis, okay? So it's a combination of reduction in reliance on concentrate and fertilizer, as well as the fertilizer type. We then also have, you can see here, the breakdown emissions where the reduction is happening. And what we can see here, it is the blue section is where the main reduction is occurring, okay? Other areas then that we have in this system is the effect of slurry spreading. So the methodology, the season, as well as the methodology, as you can see here, okay. We can also press reset. So let's say you've been moving around a couple of sliders and you kind of forget of where your starting point is. You can press reset to start, all right, go back to the starting point. What is our benchmark? So if I just look at the effect of going to trail and shoe, for example, okay, so instead of going splash plate for all seasons, we're going with trail and shoe. We're going with 70% in spring, 30% in summer. Okay, this is just an example. This you can put in any numbers really here once they're make sense. And I press calculate. Where the trail and shoe and the slurry spreading comes into play is predominantly in the ammonia. So it makes very little negligible effect on the greenhouse gas emissions. But what you can see here is you're substantially reducing your ammonia emissions by 10%. And just bear in mind our ammonia target for 2030 is 5% reduction. So that just shows the power of technologies such as the low emission slurry spreading technique. Other things then that we can look at is the grazing season. So we have the specified grazing season for dairy cows of 23rd of February to the 10th of November. This system allows you to change season by plus or minus 2 weeks. Okay, so you can extend your housing by 2 weeks, you can reduce your housing by 2 weeks, similarly for turnout, and see what the influence that would have. So if I just press reset and I just go to one, I just show you what we can do then. So come 80%, I press calculate. Okay, and I'll just go back to, I'll just bring it back to a relatively good plan. Okay, so let's go with that farmer and we're saying that's what they want to achieve for the next year. We press calculate. We are happy. We discuss with the advisor that we can, we're happy with it. We discuss with the advisor, we're happy that we can achieve that target. We then press save modification. Okay. And what happens then is you get an automatic download of your plan, okay, for that farm. Well, it's not a plan, it's an output of the decision support tool. And the output of this will help you make informed decisions then on when it comes to developing the action plan for your farm. Other areas where we're looking to develop on, it is at very early stage. As you said, this is starting point. We have fertilizer practices, we have slurry practices, we have grazing practices. Additional things that we want to include in the near future is practices around, I suppose, production. So looking at the effect of age of slaughter, looking at the effect of EBI, how that may affect your greenhouse gas emissions and your ammonia emissions, as well as animal numbers as well. So if you want to increase or reduce, if you want to reduce your stocking rate, whether you, for example, joined the organic scheme or whatnot. So this is going to be a continuous development. At the moment, we're catering for beef and dairy systems, as well as mixed cattle systems. What ideally where we want to go to is to expand it out to other enterprises to cater for the likes of sheep, as well as tillage and other enterprises. At the moment, we're focusing on the cattle, as that is where the focus is at, but we do have a wider picture. So look, that's just a quick demonstration of what you can play around with, I suppose, with the tool, the importance of it, and it communicates with the farmers and advisors what their starting point, what they're dealing with in terms of greenhouse gas emissions for that given farm, what is available to them, what impact that would have, and then with that information, it can inform the development of a farm-specific action plan. So look, that's what I have for you. If I go back to the presentation, guys, would that be okay, or is there anything additional, Siobhan?
No, that's great, Jonathan. And while you're stopping your screen sharing, I'll just maybe reiterate some of the benefits. So I suppose, just as Jonathan has demonstrated there, we're really looking at supporting the farmers with optimizing the decisions that they can make to then implement that as defined actions within their plans. Key benefits in terms of, farmers have been requesting this in terms of guidance and support. So the combined agencies have very much listen to that to develop the system. It's about maximizing the use of existing databases. All of this very much, underpinned by scientific oversight. Many countries are looking at Ireland very enviously with respect to what we have developed here. No other countries in the world have those kind of, I suppose, national database sets, and also the peer-reviewed models for the Irish system. So that's very much that scientific oversight, make sure that we have a robust and accurate system that will very much be to the benefit of Irish agri-food systems. Again, key emphasis in listening to farmers is we don't want any duplication of effort for them, making it simple and streamlined with respect to utilisation of existing databases. And also a key point is this is freely available to all farmers, not just Teagasc clients, but anybody farmers that want to engage with this can absolutely do so. We'd encourage the initial stages, particularly to kind of sign up for the Signpost advisory, and Tom will kind of re-emphasize that at the end. And the next slide really just, I suppose, focuses beyond the benefits on where we are now. Jonathan has very kindly given us a demo of this early stage, and we still feel we're in pilot mode for the rest of 2023. So there's been a lot of work done with farmers and with advisors on the usability and the co-design. And that's very much on the back of collective effort over the last 12 months, particularly to get to this point across the three partners. And I suppose very much again for some of the questions that we've had to date has been about decoupling of the sustainability survey to allow more completion by farmers. So it's very much kind of focusing around what will work best for farmers. And indeed, the fact that this will be a key tool that will be used by the Signpost Climate Advisory Programme. So in the next slide, just to kind of give a snapshot of, there's a huge development plan underway with respect to the next phases. We're in pilot mode, and we will be absolutely seeking to work with partners, and anybody that's interested in kind of having a further up and more in-depth conversation is very welcome to have so. But there's kind of, I suppose, a huge combined effort of stakeholder engagement and ongoing communication, today being part of that, establishment of the principles around, almost how we kind of have advisory groups in the governance structure, and as Jonathan mentioned, a whole suite of functionality development across three key areas. The development of new functionality, be it age of slaughter or other kind of areas around livestock numbers, integration with further data sets, and also enhancing the user experience. So as you can see from the slide there's a long-term program here of different prioritizations, and indeed every time we have a conversation conversation. I think the support and the initial kind of, I suppose, stages and what we want to seek to do is augmented and added to through this kind of process of co-design. So we are in an ambitious timescale. We are in an ambitious program of rollout, but we are really kind of glad and of the opportunity to be able to explain this to you as key stakeholders today. My final slide before I hand back to Siobhan to kind of look at the questions is focused on, you know, we will definitely have set this up with a view that we will have every key engagement from stakeholders and stakeholder advisory group with the AgNav partners leading on the kind of day-to-day operations and management. So the guidance and the support from the wider stakeholder advisory group will be critical as we move forward with future phases. And we will also have a scientific advisory group because, as noted, the scientific rigor behind this for models that are very much relevant to the Irish system will be key for importance for the, I suppose, rollout and the importance in the verification and the value of this platform for both farmers and the wider agri-food partners. That's, I suppose, all from Jonathan and myself for this morning. We are now going to hand back to Siobhan for any questions that have come in online through the Q&A function, and please keep them coming with respect to anything else that you might want to ask. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I think Jonathan will stop the slide sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much to yourself, Siobhan, and also to Jonathan for that very informative presentation and demonstration of AgNav. And as you said, it's early days. This is probably version 1, and I'm sure there'll be many more updates on, you know, as additional functionality and additional aspects are added to the tool over time. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Siobhan Kavanagh. There are some questions have been submitted by viewers this morning. We'd welcome further questions. So Siobhan, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Tom, and good morning, everybody. So yeah, we have a few questions in. The first one here is the input summary data, for the input summary data, does this come from the SDAS audit, or does the farmer have to submit the data separately? Yeah,
so at the moment how it's operating is that's coming from your most recent audit. So that farm activity data is coming from your most recent Board Bia audit. And now we are also taking into account that not all farms are going to be Board Bia quality assured. So there will be functionality there for the farmer to provide the equivalent of the Board Bia survey to conduct assessments of their farm. But at the moment, it's a combination of Board Bia, as I said, around your fertilizer, around your concentrate, around your manure management, along with the animal activity data from ICBF. And as Siobhan would have mentioned, we're continually striving to, I suppose, link with existing databases that are out there that'll improve the quality of data and verify for, you know, that you're able to verify the data that's being used for a specific farm.
And I guess, yeah. To add to that, then, Jonathan, that Board Bia have recently opened up the ability for farmers to update their sustainability survey. So if somebody had their last audit for maybe the 2020 production year and their audit was in early 2021,
yeah,
they may not have, the 18 months may not have elapsed for their next audit. So a farmer now can be encouraged to go in and update their sustainability survey out of sync with their Board Bia quality assurance audit. I think that's 100%. An important development as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that, I think it's very important. And prime example, the farm that I demonstrated, the production year was 2021. So yeah, that farmer can log in, they can see that my number is based on 2021. I have information there for 2022. Board Bia have provided a space where they can input that data from a 12-month cycle rather than an 18-month cycle. So that you're referring to the most recent.
And Jonathan, just maybe a follow-on question from that. It isn't up to date and you want to go in to update it, but you don't want to have to update all the variables in it because there's quite a lot in the audit. Are there key pieces of information that you can put in that will give you a good indication of where your emissions are at?
So so that, as we said, that's one of that's I suppose that input is going to be within the AgNav platform. So it won't even have to be it won't be two separate logins. It's going to be the singular login where you provide that information. If you have conducted a survey beforehand, there are, you know, if the same thing has happened as happened the year before, you know, that will be presented to the farmer also, rather than, I know, the labor of doing it. Yeah.
Okay. Another question here. When do you expect to have an aided slaughter decision support option available? So
very, very good question. Yeah. So that's what we're working on at the moment. So the two things we're working on at the moment. Look, as we said, we made the decision of going with a tool that has functionality looking at the key management practices available to us. We're aware that there is additional things like age of slaughter, EBI. So they're age slaughter, EBI, and cost rate feeding. They're the three things we're looking at the moment, and that'll be, as Siobhan said, the timeline there. You're looking within the next couple of months, so around 4 months, I think, is what we're kind of timelining it.
I just noticed there, going back to the first question about the input data and the sustainability survey. We've confirmed that the sustainability survey can be updated on an annual basis.
Yeah.
But the question then, a follow-on question to that, is that whether the platform in time, AgNav, could perhaps send reminders to farmers to update their sustainability survey, so that we get a kind of a cycle of updated emissions figures at the start, maybe, of every year. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think that's part of the communication around this, is to ensure that we're using the most recent and relevant data that's available. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so next comment in from Damien. Thanks for the great presentation, Tom, Siobhan, and Jonathan. Do you have a starter for 10 plans in the tool that the farmer can tailor to their own circumstances? So I suppose the starting point, where did they actually start with identifying technologies?
Do you want me to start with that one, Jonathan, and hand over to you? So the initial, as Jonathan has really demonstrated, one of the kind of main parts, which is the decision support tool, which provides the farmers with the kind of, I suppose, optimization of the scenarios. So from that then, you know, for example, if they've prioritized particular areas, that moves into the action planner. So that tool we haven't demonstrated today, but is available. And that then helps in an individual farmer level to really explore with their advisor what's practical and possible then, you know, on farm level. And that's going to be key to almost developing an action list that, you know, perhaps takes a major headline priority into, you know, what's practical on implementation on my farm. And that then provides an action list perhaps for a 12-month period that the farmer can work on with the advisor, to then, I suppose, come back in, you know, after that period in time to say, well, what difference has that made to my overall baseline number? So the kind of overall AgNav, I suppose, is very much that 3 areas. It's about looking and saying, where am I currently, my baseline? What can I do in terms of big scenarios, you know, that will really have significant impact on emissions? And then how can I practically take steps with then running that through as a cycle over a regular period? And that then collectively, if we were to aggregate that up over every farm in Ireland, would make a significant difference of all these small individual actions, really, to the total figure of agriculture emissions that's been set as, I suppose, an ambitious target. So although we haven't demonstrated the action planner today, it's a key part of that implementation at a farm level.
But I think I'd like to add to that, if I interpret Damien's question correctly, there aren't template plans. Each farmer will have the opportunity to create a tailor-made farm-specific plan for their farm, and it'll be informed by the analysis piece and the use of the forecaster tool, which will identify which mitigation actions are going to have the biggest impact on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So, you know, if by starter for 10 plan, Damien means, are there pre-formulated template plans that somebody can just pull off the shelf? I think there's not, but that AgNav provides a framework for each individual farmer working with an advisor to create a farm-specific plan for their farm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Comment in here from Eamon. Well done on this important collaboration. So the question is, can it report an average national figure and show year-on-year improvement, so the sector can then highlight to government, to wider society, etc., that we're making progress?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very strong point. And I suppose it's one of the key benefits of having this infrastructure in place, is that it is able to provide that information at a a collective level, it's not looking at individual farm, but as a group, this is the trend in which the agriculture sector is going in, and to show that yes, plans have been co-designed between the farmer and the advisor. Practices have been adopted, and they are being proactive in, I suppose, trying to achieve the targets that were set to us by the government. Yeah, so I think 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Question here from Siobhan. Does the programme take the origin of animal feed into account? So if a farmer used an Irish ration, does their carbon footprint reduce? And for example, if Irish protein is used instead of soy, is that accounted for?
Yeah, so at the moment, what we use is we just have default concentration, concentrate feeds for different animal categories. There isn't functionality within the system to change the origin of the different concentrates. We take what the average origin of each individual ingredient is within the country. But we are conscious of the fact as well that, you know, we're trying to increase or reduce our reliance on feed imports. But at the moment we're using default, and I suppose we need to get better resolution of data, I suppose, of what is the ingredients within the different concentrate feeds as well. At the moment we're just using the same concentrate across everybody within each category. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick comment and a question here from Owen. Many thanks for excellent presentation and demo. Great to see this supportive tool for farmers to enable them to make the right decisions for their farm. The question is, do you have targets on how many farmers will start using the platform in 2023 to 2025? Also, are there any ways that the industry stakeholders can support the onboarding process to encourage farmers? And we'd certainly welcome that and any ideas that might help to drive this and support the Signpost advisory as well alongside it. So Siobhan, do you want to take this?
Yes, that's fine. So the two-part question there, I suppose, Siobhan, certainly we would welcome any engagement with respect to the stakeholders or anybody on the call being able to, I suppose, advocate across to their farms and how we might use that. And Tom, you know, has outlined an ambitious programme with respect to the workshops, where will be the opportunity for farmers to engage with this in practice. I think the target, Tom, that we are looking at is 10,000 farmers in the next year or so. So again, you know, it will be great to kind of have that level of engagement across farmers, to I suppose both with respect to understanding the I suppose objectives or around climate emissions and how that plays out within their farms, along with the opportunity to develop farm specific action plans. And so ambitious targets, Siobhan, with respect to engagement, and happy to have follow-up discussions with anybody who feels that they would be able to support and work with cohorts of farmers. I think that's a huge important aspect, that, you know, it's a partnership approach we're doing here.
Yeah, and we would encourage partners to come back to us and to sit down and have those conversations to see how we might work together. Tom, a question for you is, what are the Teagasc plans to support farmers with AgNav?
Yeah, as I said in my opening comments, Teagasc has recently identified 21 advisors to take up new roles as climate action and sustainability advisors, and their key priority is to engage farmers in this whole area and using the AgNav platform as an enabling tool. So what are their targets? Targets are to engage with lots of farmers. The number we have in mind is 10,000 farmers per year, as Siobhan has already mentioned. We envisage that those farmers we will engage through workshops initially, so that we can reach a lot of farmers, but also combine that with one-to-one consultations and visits. And again, using the AgNav tool to draw down the conversation about what's happening on a particular farm. What can you do to reduce your farm's greenhouse gas emissions is the first question. That's to the farmer. And the second question then is, how can we in Teagasc with our partner organizations help you to make those changes on your farm? So there's two questions that our advisors will be asking, and they will be trained to support farmers in coming to informed decisions and follow up with action. So yeah.
Okay. 3 more questions here. So the focus of this platform at the moment is greenhouse gases. So is there capacity to integrate water actions, say the ACID program and other programs into this?
Yeah. So very good question. And yes, 100%. We're very aware that we are focused on greenhouse gas emissions and ammonia, but that's, I suppose, phase 1. But we are also, as Siobhan would have said, planning on integrating the other existing databases that are out there, or different programs that are out there. So prime example is water quality. So there is data available. It's open data around, the I suppose the water quality within each catchment within the country, the nitrates, the phosphorus contents of those catchments. If a farm has, if an ASAP assessment has been conducted on a specific farm, identifying, I suppose, point sources and what practices can be implemented, that also should be provided all in the one space within AgNav. So when a farmer logs in, or advisor logs in, they can see what the greenhouse gas emissions are, what the ammonia emissions are, what the water quality status is, and from that then, based on the status, based on the risks, what practices can you adopt within the action plan, or you can pledge to adopt. Now, the other 2 areas that we're looking at as well is biodiversity. So using satellite imagery to identify the different habitats that are within a farming system. So the quantify the different types, as well as the diversity, the area, as well as the quality. So that's a work that's, it's at a primitive stage, but it is something that we have started working on also. So yeah, we're very sure of that, conscious of it as well. The other area is economic impact as well, which is important when you come to communicating with advisors. We have to be showing that the practices in which we are recommending, that it is, we are conscious of that we're trying to improve the economic viability of the production systems also. So that's the wider picture of what we're trying to achieve. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. From Mary, thanks for a great presentation. How are any changes made on the farm verified so that it can be included as an action completed the following year? So, for example, extending the grazing season by 2 weeks. How do you verify that?
Yeah. So at the moment, the data that we know that's, let's say, it's verifiable is our animal performance data, as well as our milk production data, and live weight production. That's all coming from, the factories as well as the marts and whatnot, and the co-ops. To verify specific actions, it goes back to, I suppose, data integration, using the databases that are out there, looking at the change in management practices. So prime example is the nitrogen fertilizer register that may be coming downstream in the near future. If they are showing that if they pledge to reduce fertilizer 20% through, whether it be improved soil fertility or incorporating clover, whatever it may be, that if that is the case, that should transition through a reduction in your total fertilizer usage. Similarly, for the grazing season lengths, the integration with pasture base. So pasture base is used routinely by farmers just to improve, I suppose, to help them manage their farms. So it's within their interest to provide verifiable data within the likes of pasture base. So if that is available, we can see the trend, I suppose, in the change in those certain variables. So that's
I guess it's 1 year followed by another year followed by another year, and
yes,
every year the data on the animal numbers becomes available from AIMS. The data on the fertilizer usage becomes available from the fertilizer register. The data from the Board Bia sustainability survey becomes available from the Board Bia database, and so on. So now the verifiable piece, maybe, some of that data is verifiable, Jonathan, and some of it is farmer reported. And
100%, yeah.
If that's what Mary means, there's maybe another discussion. But yeah.
There are certain actions that you won't 100% get verifiable data. So there'll always be an element of farmer reporting, but to a large degree, and to what variables would influence greenhouse gas emissions.
The important ones are verifiable. Yeah. Question here from Yoris, and I think it's a useful one. Is there an option for industry stakeholders to log into a demo version of AgNav, and also can a demo video or a screencast be made available of the website with the slide deck afterwards? So we have a recording. This recording will go out to you as well as the slide deck, but I think a screencast, Jonathan, maybe of what you have done there this morning might be useful as well, just to make sure people are aware of what the capacity of the platform is.
Yeah, that's something that we can look into. providing.
Okay, and a question here from Billy, and this is the $1 million question. How easy is it to scale up and the time frame for getting the 10,000 farmers on board? So Tom, I'll give that one to you maybe.
Thanks, Siobhan. I thought you might. Yeah, so I guess, look, this is a new tool. So we're starting a journey which is going to take many years. It's probably not going to be easy, but we're all going to work together to give it our best shot. So, you know, in terms of AgNav, Teagasc, Bia and ICBF, with the support of the Department of Agriculture, have come together to create a brilliant decision support tool. As the Signpost program, there's over 60 partners, and we're all working together to try and engage and support Irish farmers. And Teagasc, through its advisory, research and education, within our own organisation, we'll be working right across the organisation to ensure that farmers have the best opportunity to take on board this new AgNav tool and to make the informed decisions which can reduce greenhouse gas and ammonia emissions over the coming years. So, yeah.
Tom, one quick question, and a few people have asked it, is about the tillage and the tillage and pigs and sheep, when we might expect to see those enterprises included.
So I'm gonna hand back to Jonathan maybe on that one, but you know, it is a work in progress, and there is a timeline for their delivery. I'm just not sure of the dates.
Yeah. So what we're prioritizing first would be the sheep, and then followed by the tillage in terms of the enterprises that are available to us, and we're talking 12 months is what we're looking at. Yeah, that's the vision anyways.
Yeah. Tom, that's it. There's no further questions. I'm conscious of the time as well. So.
Okay, so look, thank you very much, Siobhan, Kavanagh, for handling the questions. So all that's left to me is to make a few closing comments. I've been asked to remind people that today's webinar has been recorded, and a copy of the recording, or a link to a copy of the recording and a copy of the slides, will be circulated in the next number of days. That's point number one. Secondly, if anybody wants to follow up, any of our Signpost program partners on the call want to follow up for more information on AgNav, they can contact Siobhan Jordan. So that's siobhan.jordan@teagasc.ie, or indeed they can come to myself or Siobhan Kavanagh either. Okay, and we'll put you in touch with Siobhan Jordan. In relation to the Signpost Advisory Program, if any of our Signpost Program partners want to find out more about the Signpost Advisory Program, I'd ask that you talk to myself or Siobhan Kavanagh, and we can have a conversation with you and include some of our colleagues from the Signpost Advisory Program itself. And that's all. Finally, I'd like to thank Jonathan and Siobhan Jordan for their presentation. Very informative, and yeah, I think we gave a good airing to the AgNav digital sustainability platform this morning. And absolutely finally, I want to thank Yvonne Marr, who is on production this morning, and our colleague John Leaney, who helped with setting up the webinar this morning. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.